Council study session of Monday, February 2nd to order. Kathy, do you want to speak first, or did you want me to kind of give an overview of why we're here?
Yeah.
Well, the purpose of this study session is to talk about multifamily developments, and kind of all aspects of that, what we want to see, how we want them to be developed, where they want to go, we want them to go in Liberty, what type of design criteria we would want to see, what type of construction materials, what type of development plans we want to see. Basically, everything related to multifamily is up for discussion, and this is just kind of a free-flowing public discussion of multifamily. And I think the reason for this is, we have a lot of multifamily in the community that has not aged well. We have the Spring Avenue duplexes. We have a lot of apartment buildings in this community that have really seen better days, and we want to make sure that does not, that whatever is built in the next few years, if anything, will be better and longer lasting over time. So that's why we're here. I think there was a little confusion earlier in the day. There is currently a downtown task force that is developing design criteria for the downtown. And that will include design criteria for multifamily in downtown. So that's not really the discussion tonight, because there will be very specific downtown multifamily construction criteria related to, say, retail on the first floor, living above, and what that would look like, and how that would be incorporated into the downtown area. And so the downtown task force has hired a consultant to look at that there. The plan is to bring back something to the city council in May. Is that right, Kat?
We have to have it, and we're hoping to have it in May.
And there'll be a public forum before that to show the public where we are. We already have the downtown infill concept plan, and that showed a lot of where we're headed, but we hired some specific consultant to talk about the construction materials and the different amenities and how that would be incorporated in the downtown. So that's not really what we're discussing tonight. Tonight is just really the rest of the city. What do we want multifamily to look like if it comes, and so that's where we are. And so I think we'll just open it up. Before we do anything, can I ask, on multifamily, do we distinguish between owner-occupied townhomes and multifamily apartments? Do we consider them in the code the same thing, or are they different?
Our code refers to multifamily as anything that is shared wall. So
Okay.
if a duplex, triplex, quad, or apartment building would all be considered multifamily. It is not, we don't take into consideration whether the units are owner occupied.
And we don't consider whether, it makes no difference in our design criteria or our ordinances, whether it's a duplex, fourplex, sixplex, or 200 units of apartments?
Currently, our codes are divided up into limitations, so it would make a difference if they are a duplex or an apartment complex. But the PD, which is sort of what we're talking about tonight, is regulations that could help guide the PD. That's any planned development apartments, which is mostly what we get. I would say none of us could really remember an apartment complex that came in under a straight zoning, because we don't the area that already have apartments have already been built on, have that zoning. So
What about a duplex that has not yet been built but that is zoned for a duplex?
Right now, it is what you would typically see on Spring Avenue, and with more of a garage prominent design.
Will what we're talking about tonight impact that?
Yes.
Perfect. All right.
And I would just add, Mayor, this is a big issue in the metropolitan area. The mayor from Lee Summit was on, I think it was Channel 41, and talking about like the design criteria. And so I think it's like a normal issue that we're facing in the metropolitan area?
Well, when we began pulling together ideas for this design criteria, we started by looking at two examples that we've heard a lot about as not great examples, things that we don't want. Spring Avenue duplexes, Gallatin Plaza townhomes, and just tried to pull out from these what might make these something that we don't really want. So as we look at these images, we see, you know, a lot of concrete, don't see a lot of landscaping. Where's the front door? We don't see the front door. The bins, we do see the bins. Kind of a blank wall, lack of architectural detailing. And so we started listing out these things that we're seeing with these examples. And so, did I hit all of those? And so as we did that, we sort of talked about, if we were to look at it and write a code to build the anti-this, what would that look like? Trying to talk about, require parking in the rear of the home so that there's less of that just front yard concrete. Having open space requirements. We do have that in many portions of our code, but obviously not during this time when these were built. I believe Gallatin Plaza was built in the 80s and the duplexes were built in the mid-90s, 81 and 95. The lack of landscaping, that was really stood out because those images that I showed you, they weren't nuisance issues. They didn't have garbage, they didn't have peeling paint, they didn't have broken windows, they just didn't have things that really made them attractive. So the lack of landscaping, I think, really could go a long way. Front door prominent, you really couldn't see where the front door was. You want something that is a welcoming entry. And architectural detailing as well, of course, requiring quality materials that will stand the test of time. And then maybe even going as far as requiring someplace structures or something where you could put bins, like we do require currently for commercial and large multifamily dumpsters. We also looked at and looked up the term quality multifamily and lots of variations of that term, and came up with some list of characteristics that maybe could be replicated in our code. Brick or stone as an exterior material we saw a lot of that. Symmetrical or rhythmically balanced facades that give you kind of more of a complete feel, a cohesive feel to a project. Varied roof lines are important, stoops, porches, unarticulated entries. So if you see the townhomes on the left, they have architectural detail. We've seen some recently, not ones that have come to you, they haven't been to you, they've come to us in pre-application meeting, that are truly so plain in the front that someone who was in the Army said, these look like Army barracks that I was in the 90s. And then human scale massing that will blend with the neighborhoods.
What does that term mean?
It means when you're walking, you don't feel like there's just a wall of whatever, brick or whatever. There's windows and doorways and landscaping, things to walk by and see.
The opposite of what we see across from William Jewell, where there's just like a solid wall of vinyl with a little window, right?
Yeah, tiny window.
Yeah.
As we continued to search for quality design, a few things stood out to us. These duplexes are an example of design done right. Parking behind or to the side of the structures lets you have a yard in the front. Prominent porches, enhanced landscaping, varying roof lines. These duplexes emulate single-family homes, so they feel like they might fit more easily into a traditional neighborhood. In these, they have residential materials such as cement fiber siding, but there's a lot of details that go into this. So what we noticed were enhanced lighting. They have divided lights in the windows, columns, brick wainscoting, masonry chimneys, and all of these details come up with just a more quality product that blends nicely into neighborhoods. And then I'm gonna go over the design criteria, but if you guys have any questions.
Can I add, so like on the, like the one on the bottom right, that looks really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I think it looks nice, I don't know if everybody else does, but if we were gonna have something that was multifamily, that's the type of thing that would be, is that,
This was a building plan we found online that you
Okay.
can purchase online as a building plan.
is
I mean,
is
it's
the
available.
standards that you provided us as kind of a starting point for us to discuss, is that the type of thing that would be, obviously that would be permitted under this, but how would we make sure that that is what we get and not something else?
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about, as staff was to have, language that sort of speaks to, you know, not just the materials, because I think we talked about this in other situations. We talked about it specifically with the design, the downtown design, where we can say things like, yes, we want it to be brick, we want it to be 80% brick, or whatever big number we have out there. But we can also see examples that it can be done really well and not be brick. It can be done really well and be cement fiber siding with brick on the chimney and brick on the wainscoting and, you know, having the details. So I think it's just as much as spelling out that they're required to have a porch or eaves or dormers or a masonry fireplace, you know, chimney. I mean, really spelling out, and I don't mean fireplace, I did mean chimney. Really spelling out these aspects in the code, which we have not gone to that extreme because we were really just trying to get a starting point for conversation today.
When you talk about parking at the rear, how do you envision accessing parking?
An image
at the
for
rear?
you?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, would there be a shared drive then between two
Yeah,
houses,
sort of.
or?
How we envisioned it was having just a driveway and then there's parking in the back, whether they wanna split it up from like one side or the other. It's just the idea that it doesn't have to be in the front, you know,
Mhm.
in front of both. Just a larger area in the back, which is still, you know, a significant amount of covered parking, I mean, maybe not covered, but, impervious area, but it's just not as visible.
Sure.
The other option would be if you had alleys, if you had a lot of them in a row, you could have an alley through the back, but that's more maintenance. And that's more maintenance for, like maybe larger projects where you would have some ability for them to come and plow. But if you're talking about individual homeowners who have a duplex and they share it, probably this type would be better.
Sure, makes sense. And then the other thing relative to the landscaping out front, I mean, I remember these projects that you referenced that we have were passed well before we had kind of the landscaping ordinance.
Right.
Would the current landscaping ordinance that we have apply, if we made no changes to anything today,
Yeah.
would that still apply to require a tree in the front, you know, whatever the
Yeah.
landscaping is around?
Right, so, on single-family and two-family homes, maybe even triplexes, there's a requirement that has to do with units and parking. When you get to larger complexes, there's a different calculation for it, but yes, our current landscaping, whether you are coming through with a PD or straight multifamily zoning like an R5 garden district, you would be required to meet our current landscaping.
Okay.
What we would like to do is take it all and put it all together so that when a developer comes in, it's easier for them to see all of the
Mhm.
requirements and builds their product accordingly because they're not having to pick it from different portions of the code.
Sure, okay, great.
Kat, I've got a question about on the guidelines. It says, number 11, vinyl materials are not acceptable. Does that also include vinyl regarding windows?
That's up to you guys. We were not anticipating that vinyl, we were really thinking of exterior sheathing, exterior, covering for the structure, not necessarily getting involved with windows. It's not a historic district and we get enough pushback with no vinyl within the historic district, so that was not going to be a recommendation of staff, but
Okay.
I'm happy to go over all of these. I have them
Great.
kind of ready and queued up if you're interested.
But one of the things that we're just looking for from general guidance, so that we can come back with an ordinance, so that you guys can approve or disapprove of it, or add to it. So we're just looking for general guidance.
Okay. But we did think it would be easier for conversation if we had something to start with. And that's really what the intent of these are. So we'll just, number one, minimum 30% open space. This is already in the code for the R4, which is our townhome, the R5, our garden apartment, our low-rise, and R7, which is our high-rise district. But we would also like to include language regarding our buffer requirements, which already exist where multifamily backs up to single family. And we also have requirements if you back up to a road. So those are already required, whether you're a single family or a multifamily, you're already required to have a buffer. And you guys have seen that with like Homestead, when they came in, they have a 50-foot landscape buffer adjacent to their property. So we'd like to include that with these regulations. Also something that talks about saving the trees around the edges, if possible, preservation of trees at the edges. That's always something that I tell the developer when they come in, because trees make such a huge deal for the neighbors. They're already upset that something's going in next to their property. And it's like adding insult to injury when you also take down the mature trees for no reason. So we always tell them, leave the trees up. You're gonna be required to have a 50-foot buffer anyway. But this kind of helps them before they start, it helps them in their planning phase understand that that's an important part of our code. Speaking of trees, landscaping goes a long way in making sites more attractive, so we do want to make sure that we have a good landscaping requirement. We'll bring through code that will spell it out for you. If you feel like you want something different, you can let us know. We can dig in on that. One of the items we saw.
Is that in the code? Like, is there, when you say landscaping requirement,
Yeah.
is that already in the code?
We have landscaping requirements now, yeah. So if you're a single family home, it's different than if you're a multifamily product. But yes, we do require street trees at every 50 feet. We require a certain amount of trees for every parking space. We have requirements per square footage of your building. So depending on how big your project is how many trees you're required to have. And then several years ago, we added the requirement for beautification. So we had more of like perennials and shrubs and those type of, not just trees. But some communities say things like, that the beds need to be mulched. You can't have just dirt. So, some people get really into the nitty-gritty with these requirements. One of the things we saw in other community codes was requiring shared common green space. So requiring a courtyard or some kind of shared most of them that come through here, because we have, we're not in a terribly dense area, you typically do have shared common space as part of it. Shared common space as well as private functional private space, that's more like a patio or a balcony required in the code. So if you're interested in that, we can add that. When we looked at site design layout, small changes like having parking in the rear of the home with the driveway either from an alley or down the side yard can make a big difference in the frontage view. Same with having prominent entrances, and these are all the things that we talked about when we saw the duplexes that were, had more of the porch. It just feels more welcoming. And then of course we do have requirements for sidewalks. And then building design, really what we have so far is to require varied roof lines, architectural detailing, brick, stone, or stucco. Right now we have that at 30% of the front as just a starting point to discuss. No vinyl, but no vinyl siding,
So what?
Siding,
yeah. Not
Well, I
in
wanna come
general.
back to windows.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't talking about multifamily, and we could say no vinyl windows if we want to, so I mean.
I think you can, but I would, yeah, we can go back to that if you want.
Can I ask you, so like this is where I was trying to get to earlier. Max continuous blank wall is 20 feet. If you go back to like that original picture you showed us, in the bottom right-hand corner,
Of the bad one, the UGG in Liberty?
no, the good one, no, the good one, the good one,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
No, it was the,
The three duplexes.
Yeah.
okay, the bottom right. Okay, like, so we said no more than 20 feet. The bottom right hand. Those look like they're a lot closer than 20 feet.
Yeah, so what the intent of this code is to not have giant blank walls.
I know,
Right.
but I guess what I'm saying is that what we're being shown there is not what would have to be built, because with the code that's as proposed, or what you're, the template.
20 feet's too generous.
I think that's not, we won't get that, we'll get something that has 20 feet.
Well, you have to remember that you're talking about, that 20 feet for, I mean, for any of these, 20 feet isn't very long. It's really not very long, so if you're talking about, in a single family home, yes, it might feel awkward, but if you're talking about,
What are these, 8-foot tables?
Probably 6.
Yeah.
Would that just be a front footage, or would that be the sides as well? Is that what
the code that we took it from, said no continuous blank wall over the entire thing, but they did allow for kind of some other exceptions within that. So you have to have a window or a door, architectural feature, and they allowed for public art.
So if you go back to that next, or the 1-3, if you were to look on the side of that duplex on the left, it probably does get close to that 20 feet there on the side.
On the white one.
Yeah, on the white
Mhm.
building. So so if you restrict all the way around, you're gonna hit some weird points. If you wanted something maybe where the front had higher restrictions, but I think definitely with the side and some of the other areas, I think you probably have to leave that, otherwise it would start to get.
You're just gonna be
challenging.
cutting holes to cut holes.
Yeah.
Even in nice neighborhoods, when we had this discussion, Mike, the assistant director, Peterman, he lives in Woodneath, and he was showing me how on his street, they have nice homes. Woodneath is a nice neighborhood. One little window on one side, because the floor plans, that's their laundry room, that's their shower. I mean, it's just all these things that you don't have, and they put them on that one side. And so I understand how on, in certain instances, it could go to that. What we're trying to prevent is not, this isn't really related to single-family homes. We're just trying to have a better quality multifamily
I'm just trying to figure out
experience.
how we can have a code that requires you to build first class, right? Like, cause what we'll get is, you know, somebody will try to make it as cheap as possible that is permitted under the code. And so I'm just trying to figure out, when we see a picture like that and we go, oh, that's great, we think that's what we're getting, and the next thing we're gonna get is something that's very different than that. And so, you know, I'm just saying that I think we need to think about that. Like, is that landscaping there looks really nice? Is that the type of landscaping that is required, or is that more than would be required? Am I making sense?
It's probably less. I don't see any trees in either one of those
Just in the back, yeah.
in the back.
On
We require a front yard tree currently.
Yeah.
We do require front yard trees.
Do we have a size for that?
I mean, yeah, we do have a size for that.
2-inch caliber.
I think the challenge is, you know, with these ones is a little more of a challenge, and it's because these are going to be individual property owners that are going to own this and probably rent out the other side. Or it's going to be, you know, when we're talking about the landscaping for multifamily, we're really thinking of these projects that are going to have, you know, a property manager. They're going to have people that are, this is their role is to make sure that all of this stays in place and is planted. And I think it's easier to have requirements for the larger projects, which we may not be as interested in, is what I've heard from the council. So I'm not sure if you wanna have a different requirement for duplex, but currently we would make them have the same requirement as a single family home, but twice, because it's 2 units, so that that would be our current requirement, the way that our code reads. So 6 bushes and, a tree in the front, a street tree every 50 feet, that type of thing.
And I think if everybody feels comfortable with what she's presenting, I mean, we can come back with an ordinance. And you guys can do another study session and look over that ordinance and say whether or not this is where we wanna move to.
I think it's definitely the right direction, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's definitely the right direction, for
Yeah.
sure. The hard part for me is I don't have a great sense of comparing what this translates into building. Like Catherine, pardon me for asking, but do you consider these like to be fairly significant changes to what we currently have, or just kind of minor tweaks? Because I just don't have a sense of that.
So our current duplex is nothing like this. Our current duplex is essentially allows for design, Spring Avenue design.
Okay.
A lot of our code, a lot of our straight zoning, R2, which is duplex, R3 is nothing, nobody uses it, it's something called cluster development that doesn't mean anything. We've never had it in the almost 20 years I've been here, we've never used it, so I don't know what it was intended for.
Fair enough.
R4 is townhomes, and it does have a lot of what we're describing with requirements to have garages in the back and de-emphasized in the back. And so but the problem is with the R4 is that you can't zone to that. So they're maintained in the UDO for properties that are already zoned R4, but no one can come through and rezone to an R4. So if they come in with a townhome product, we have to bring them through as a PD.
And why can't they change to that?
Yeah, we could change it, but we also felt like the PD was a kind of a win for both parties, because then when we're rezoning to the PD, we are tied to that plan, and you get less of that feeling that the neighbors get concerned about bait and switch. You know how they say that at the public meetings, and I
Yep.
understand that concern, but so we don't mind staff doesn't mind the PD.
Okay.
So then, if we do something like this, is this kind of in keeping with what I'm gonna say our comparable communities are doing, or are we kind of well outside of the norm if we do something like this?
Yeah, I don't think people are doing this. I don't, but we can certainly ask them for their multifamily criteria. And see
I
where
looked
they're
at some of the stuff they're doing in Ladue.
Where at?
Well, there's
A lot more than this, I'll
There's
tell you
there's a
that.
particular,
That's high level St. Louis.
there's a
Huh?
particular.
That's high level St. Louis.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that, you wanna come in and build multifamily here, maybe we ought to require first-class development like we say, I mean, I drive down Withers Road and I see Homestead, I think it's really, really nice. And I see what Dan Carr has done there on the right-hand side, and he's put in that artwork with the deer, I think it looks fantastic. Maybe we should require them to have some type of public art or some type of street, water feature. I mean, I think I would like us to be like, innovative. Think about what we'd like to see. What do we want in our community? I've seen other multifamily units that have really cool features that are attractive, and they're kind of there for the whole community. And if there's something on the South Liberty Parkway, and it's there are people that walk up and down the South Liberty Parkway, we ought to have something that's nice to look at. And I'm kind of like with Councilman Graham. I don't know what 30% of the stuck. That doesn't mean anything to me, because I don't know is that a lot, is that a little. What can you build on the side? Is that so you don't have to build with like brick on the side? So what can you build on the side? I don't really understand what those materials are.
Yeah, so, and it's a little more clear in the, actually, I think I've got it here. Number 11, thanks, I was looking for it. Oh. I feel like maybe that should say 11.
It does?
Okay.
So what else can be, like, brick, stone, stucco, not synthetics, that cover at
Right,
least
yeah.
30% of the front unit?
It says wood lap, concrete
What's
fiber.
wood lap? Is that just wood?
Wood siding, lap
Just wood,
siding.
normal wood siding? Okay.
Yeah. Although really, I'm not opposed to other type of, I mean, this says concrete fiber lap, which is also this style. I think a lot of people prefer this, board and batten, which is more of a wide board and then kind of a narrow.
Yeah.
That's sort of a style right now here in the Midwest.
It's a pain.
Why?
I had a house with that once, and I don't know, it was a big pain to take care of personally, but
It's hard to paint.
it's hard to
Yeah,
paint.
yeah.
It's
The
the-
paint
it's the,
falls off all the time. It rots out. You've got to change the batten. I mean,
It's the farmhouse style that's really popular now.
it's bad.
Nobody
Yeah.
needs that.
And I think honestly,
But-
you know, I don't wanna be government in the way where we're telling
Yep.
people they can't have board and batten or they have to have laps. So really,
Right.
we would clean that up and it would be material only, so concrete fiber, wood, really some, you know, EIFS, some people are opposed to EIFS, some people are fine with EIFS. EIFS is it's really more of an insulation system. They call it synthetic stucco, but it doesn't really look like stucco.
So we were talking
It's more
about the
of a
downtown
commercial.
task force.
Yeah,
They were saying that some EIFS is really bad.
right.
And so if you allow it, we're gonna get the bad stuff. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to do here, is that we need to be cognizant of like that whatever the cheapest thing is, some of these people are gonna come through and they're gonna go, where can we cut corners?
Right.
And that's what I think we're trying to prevent. And so I don't know anything about EIFS. I mean, if we could have some specific criteria on the type. You know, I mean, there was a time when people loved vinyl, right? When they came in, they go, this is, you know, Curtis says, well, we got different construction materials. I go, yeah, back in the 80s when they said we got vinyl, it's no longer the asbestos siding. Now we're using vinyl. And now we're like, well, vinyl's not great. So I don't know. So what else can you use on the side then?
Well, we've just listed out, wood, cement fiber, and EIFS essentially. EIFS would not replace stucco if stucco is one of the quality materials that are allowed on the front. Stucco, stone, and brick.
So
So-
is the EIFS the stuff that looks kind of like stucco but rots very quickly?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily rot very quickly. In the 80s, there were some issues where there were water leakage issues, and there was some kind of larger, you know, more public stories of what had happened, and it was. I don't know that we don't really hear issues with it now. It's just not really a material that's used a lot. It's probably used more in commercial
Yeah, we
applications,
use a lot
like
of commercial stuff.
the triangle probably has quite a bit of EIFS.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a, you know,
Kat,
a material that you would see in that kind of area.
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay.
Can you tell me what EIFS is? I'm
It's
sorry, I've never
it's
heard
an
that.
exterior metal kind of, it's not metal, I'm sorry, exterior fiber foam,
Okay.
but it's hard on the outside, but it's kind of foam on the inner layer, so it's an insulation panel essentially that when you look at it, it's got that tan stucco look, so you probably think it's stucco siding,
You can paint it too, I think.
you can,
Okay.
yes.
So does 30% include windows or not? So if, like the window area of the window, is that,
No, that's not included,
so it's 30% of the hard surface?
yes. 30% of the building frontage, so yes, I guess window would be included. If you're saying with 30%, I would say
Well,
yes, that probably
30%
mean
seems like
30% of
So you're just calculating the area of the front,
that would be my guess,
length,
yes.
length times width, and we
Right.
gotta do 30%. So windows would be included in the calculation. You're not gonna deduct for the area of the window.
So again, we pulled these from other, you know, design criteria that were online, and there's not a lot of them out there. Not a lot of multifamily criteria laid out in this in this way.
Well, there's a lot of communities that just don't want any of it and are doing what they can to prevent all of it. I've seen a lot of that online.
Yeah, can I ask a
Yeah.
question? If we're done with that. Looking at number 10, and then when you referenced it too, you talk about varied roof lines and articulations. If you, again, we probably should have had 2 screens so you could split screen between your examples. If you go back to not the examples, the next one, that one, is that one on the left, is that considered a varied roof? I mean, 'cause you could argue that that's a similar roof line for each unit, but is it varied because it has the peaks?
Varied because it goes and
Okay.
does,
It's
not
the
like
peaks.
Right.
the peaks,
I-
but it's also that these are different heights
I know
than
what you're
this,
saying.
these are different heights than
Yeah.
that.
Right, I thought that was the
Makes
case,
sense.
I just wanna make sure that
And
was,
obviously that one,
right, and that has
Look,
different.
they look the same.
Right, I just wanna make sure we're on the same page on what
Yeah.
varied
Yeah.
meant, because those are,
Right.
So-
like your-
in one way are very
The-
similar, but are varied because there's architectural differences.
the barracks that we saw they had no, gabled roof, they were really just kind of it was like a Monopoly piece. And then had windows and doors on it, and only one side did not even have windows on it at all.
See, even the doors have like a peak on them in that one.
I like that look.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so-
It's nice.
So there's,
Yeah.
I mean, there's something that looks good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stuff on the left, I mean, it's older, but some of our oldest cities in the country have stuff that looks just like that,
Yeah.
or more dense cities have stuff that looks very similar to
The
that.
stuff that looks good,
So-
50 years later though, is almost always stone or brick. You know, you just can't get away from that. Right? I mean, sometimes you get wood,
Wood.
but then you have to redo the wood, but that's fair,
Yeah.
that's fair, I mean, that's fair.
You gotta, you gotta paint it.
And Catherine, go back to the other picture, since we're just talking. I mean, to me, like when Anthony was out at the Air Force Academy, the house on the left and the house down below on the right, there's a ton of those out there in Colorado Springs.
You think they were duplexes?
A duplex?
Yeah. And they look good. I mean, they look.
I mean, if
really
you go over to over there by Clayview, the old, what's that neighborhood called?
What are we talking about? The park, Clay Brook?
No,
The tennis court, indoor tennis courts.
yeah,
Oh,
over there.
over the
Where
other
they have
one.
the old, the
The retro style.
retro style.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
They have like some multifamily over there. It looks
Is
very
that
nice.
Winbrook?
Huh?
Winbrook?
No.
No, it's,
across the
It's
highway
by-
by
it's
Jason
Craftsman
Finney's
style.
spots.
Oh,
By the
okay.
orange.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Right behind, JCPenney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By Oaks, by
Yeah, those are
Liberty
nice.
Oaks Elementary School.
yeah, I'd almost like to go see what like the criteria was for those. 'Cause
Yeah.
those are really nice.
They are, and they're all different.
Yeah.
I've always liked those.
And
Oh, look.
smaller lot format.
You know, maybe that's
Right.
something also that if you have so many units, they have to be different. I don't know, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking,
I love that. Well, and also the ones that you're talking about, they also have, the garages are in the back. You never see like everything's, the whole house is a garage, like you were showing earlier.
Yeah, I think that is one of the best tweaks that coming forward here.
and I think
I
one
think
thing,
so too.
people can always ask for a variance, correct? So, if we're missing something and somebody had a great idea that said, you know what, what you've done here is impeding me from coming forward with the best idea in the world, we can always provide a variance. Is that right, George?
Within limits, yes, but generally, if you're talking design, you can certainly provide variances.
But if you set a
You
standard.
can't vary safety and
No,
stuff
fair.
like that, but
You can always
design
take, you can
standards-
always take it up take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Do home builders know that we're considering these?
Oh, yeah.
Do we
Oh,
get
yeah.
any what kind of feedback are we getting from them?
Not good.
So-
They're a little bit nervous.
And then I assume because they're worried that we're gonna force them to build more expensive apartments, townhomes, duplexes, and they don't wanna build here.
Yep, that's correct.
I think it's a very expensive world right now,
Yeah, no
um,
doubt.
the product is expensive to get in, tariffs and all of the things that we hear from the builders, it's already very expensive. So I think they are concerned that we're going to make things more expensive than what they could build, but.
Most of the things that they're building off 104th Street north of there and the nicer neighborhoods on the other side of the highway would meet all of our standards here, whatever standards we come up with. So I don't know if I buy all of this.
Multifamily, that you're referring to?
Well, I'm just saying that, no, I'm not, I'm talking about, the especially like home builders, the ones that we see on this other side of the highway that like the Homestead neighborhood. The Homestead neighborhood is gonna meet all of and comply with anything that we do, multifamily or single family, right? What we're trying to avoid are the people that come in and do it on the cheap. And I don't, and if a builder wants to come in and complain because, that we're requiring them not to build with vinyl, that doesn't bother me one bit. People in this community want high quality development. People on Withers Road made it very clear in the last couple of weeks. They didn't want single, multifamily where it was, the comp plan called for single family, and I think that if you go and you ask any of those neighbors, what type of, development do you wanna see? They wanna see things like Homestead, they wanna see things like Wellington, they wanna see things like what Dan Carr has done there down on Withers Road. And, I don't know, I haven't had, Dan Carr hasn't come to me to complain about this.
Well, he built a higher level home.
Well, don't we want nice homes in this community?
Well, we're talking multifamily. We're talking about the young professionals, the young workers. We brought 7,000 jobs to town, and 98% of those folks cannot live in this community.
People that work at Ford can afford homes in this community. The problem is that they've built over on 104th Street. They've built nice stuff over there. And most of the stuff.
Multifamily?
Well, I'm not wild about multifamily. We have plenty of multifamily in this city.
No, we don't.
Oh, yes, we do. It's all over. Go to Westtown. Go to Westtown. Go to Darrell. We have all kinds of affordable housing in this community, and that's not our problem. What we don't have is a lot of new neighborhoods. We just don't.
Greg, what's the name of the apartment complex that Angel used to live in?
Copper Ridge.
Copper Ridge. Would Copper Ridge meet these criteria?
Oh, I have no idea, I'm sorry.
I mean, just a general thought, do you think it would give?
I think it's a quality development. I think we required the buffer, it had ample open space. I think it had 60% open space, cause we
Because I think that's a
looked at
good quality development.
It is a good quality development.
If we were short of a ban on multifamily, I wouldn't want to discourage that type of development through our design.
I think the reality is so much of it is based on who you are next to. The development that was withdrawn last week or 2 weeks ago for council was a quality development. The neighbors did not care for it, and they came out with a strong opinion, and I think that is a different story than if you have a development next to something that people aren't as concerned about, or people aren't as vocal, or people aren't as entrenched in the neighborhood. I'm not sure, but certainly it's not always a level playing field when you come forward with a rezoning, because you may have situations where there are people adjacent that are just going to be more concerned about it.
Well, there are places like the downtown where the master plan calls for retail on the first floor and apartments above it, or if we can get the parking garage up and going and have it surrounded by retail on the first floor and apartments above. There are places that have been on the South Liberty Parkway, but you are gonna have a hard time if people have bought a home in a single family neighborhood, and then you come along and you try to rezone something right next to it.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
That's always gonna be a problem. Let's just be honest about that.
Yeah.
People will, if you live over in Clay Woods and they decide to take Belvoir and make it into a sea of multifamily, you're gonna have some people that are angry.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a reality, which is why, to the extent that we can impose some good quality design criteria that'll stand the test of time, that's what we should probably do.
Yeah, I think that's the goal for everybody, is to make sure that anything that comes through and is approved is built to a quality standard that's going to last and be maintained and encourage quality design, so.
Oh, couple of things. One, the second one's a little more maybe philosophical, but the first one, maybe there seems to be a disagreement here between Mr. Watt and the mayor regarding the amount of multifamily, and whether we have enough. Can you kind of speak maybe to market conditions, what kind of things are going on in the metro, what kind of applications you're getting or hearing, just so, and then how do we kind of compare relative to some of that?
I know when the comp plan came through in 2023, there was information in that showed that we were short on multifamily. I think part of it is the quality multifamily is a challenge, because we might have you listed off a bunch of Darrell Court or whatever, that may not be the multifamily that the young kids getting out of college who are coming to work jobs that, living their dream or whatever. So I do feel like there's a need for that, especially as we're looking, to try and have our community have options for our citizens, not just the younger kids, but my mother-in-law, when she was widowed a couple of years ago, decided to sell her home. She didn't want to deal with all the things. She said she was just worried about anything going out, anything and everything. And so decided to rent, and it's a challenge to find a place that, ticks those boxes for people. And so I do think that it's not just the people who we're trying to get the young people here, but it's also people who have raised their families here and they want to stay in this community.
I do think that we have a lack of small, like patio homes like Dan Carr has built, or we finished off the development. I mean, I think those are really nice. Windbrick is nice. I mean, there are a lot of nice little places. Seaport has been a wonderful development for 40 years.
Yeah.
We could use more of that.
Yeah. And when we looked at that development, because it doesn't tick all the boxes from our design criteria. The parking is in the front. You can't really see the front door, but somehow it seems to work there. It's the heavily landscaped. It's that all of the units have this cohesive color, brick driveways, and it just gives it sort of a charming lake feel.
Yeah, nice amenities.
Yeah, it sort of works there, but it does not tick the box. Like, it does not check the boxes that we put
That's fair.
forward for
Neither would
duplexes.
Seaport.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's
I'm
what
referring to.
I was just talking about
Yeah.
Dan Cars. Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying that a variance, I mean, this council has often provided variance. I think if somebody comes forward with a really cool design, we ought to be receptive to that. And
I think the challenge with that, and just to be sort of blunt, is that when they're coming forward, with design, it is costing them $100,000 to bring forward a design to come to you guys and planning commission. And if they don't have it in the code, and we're saying, well, we think you can get a variance, we think you can, it's a big gamble for people. I mean, if it's a variance for a fence height on an industrial property, fine, not a huge gamble. We can say, yeah, we're pretty sure that can happen. If you're talking about complete design difference than what we've already had a study session and discussed and made our, code about, then I think it's just not likely that we're gonna recommend somebody come forward with trying to get a variance for that, because this is what we're talking about, this is what we're leaning on.
that's fair, but I think that if you have somebody that comes forward with something that is, it's gonna have to be unique and really first class, and it'd have to be something that special, that, they would probably go and meet with all the council members and talk to them and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, and what do you think? And I mean, people in this room tend to be pretty reasonable people, and I would think that, and if it's, but having a high minimum standards, I think is okay. I think that the people in this community want first-class development. And, I think that what we see on Withers Road for the most part has been really nice. And I think that we need to continue to try to encourage that. I don't think there's anything wrong with encouraging.
Well, Withers Road is all single family, there's no multifamily over
Yeah, I
there.
think that most people on Withers Road like it.
But we're talking multifamily tonight.
Yeah, I know, I'm telling you that if you're gonna put multifamily anywhere in this community, people on Withers Road are gonna like it, want it to be really, really first class. They don't want second-rate stuff, Jeff. They just don't. I mean, if you didn't see, like, the neighbors went,
I'm well aware of that.
well, then then that's what we're doing here, is we're gonna have first-class
So we're,
multifamily.
we're pricing anybody out that can't afford
We're
to
not
pay
pricing anybody,
$2,000
we're not
a
pricing,
month.
well, first of all, there's no apartments being built anywhere in this area where that's not the cost.
Well, I think you should let us, like, after the discussion tonight, I think we can put something together. I mean, and we'll come back to another study session, and you guys can look at the ordinance, and whether or not it achieves what you're talking about, I mean,
Well, and I think that, you know, I would like to see something that, you know, that encourages, if you're gonna come with a multifamily, that you have something that is, you know, have something that is a public feature, that, you know, I don't know if it's art or water feature or
Water
something,
feature,
that kinda like what Dan Carr did. I think that is, it's a good way to have people feel good about it. If we're gonna, you know, have multifamily on the South Liberty Parkway, it's gonna have to be nice. And we're not trying to get to the lowest common denominator, Jeff. I mean, we're just not.
We've already got 2 projects coming on the Parkway, and neither one.
And one of them's gonna come back with something nicer.
Yes. they're
Yeah,
both
that's
gonna
because
be
I met with
great.
them, that's because I met with them and said, they wanted to put a bunch, we don't wanna have, if you go down 291 and you look to the left, that's Hawthorne Plaza, that's the largest apartment complex in the state of Missouri. And it is a terrible, terrible project.
Where?
If you go down 291 in Independence.
Oh, not in town.
No, not in town,
Okay,
no,
okay.
no.
Yeah, past the old Kmart.
well,
No,
why don't you just let us come back
Yeah.
with something?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll
Yeah.
put it in writing,
Yeah.
and then you guys can hash it out from there.
Great. I have one more question, and this is maybe the more philosophical one. For a number of years, when I first came on the council, and Mr. King was still with us there as well, we had a lot of people coming, wanting comp plan changes, future land use amendments, all those types of things, and we were pretty open to those in general. I think because, as we talked at the time, it was often said, well, we need a new comp plan, we need a new comp plan, we need a new comp plan, right? We have a new comp plan, and now we're getting still requests to change future land use, to amend the comp plan, et cetera. I don't know if there is an answer, maybe this is rhetorical, but it's just kind of, you know, we task a bunch of citizens to come together and tell us what they want, and where they want it, and where it's appropriate, and what they think this would look like, and we're what, like 2 years into this plan, and we're already making, or being asked to make a lot of changes, and to me, that's what kind of would give me pause with some of these types of things coming in. This is more, not relative to design, this is just more relative to where are we gonna
Process.
put these things,
Process.
process, and where are we gonna put these things, and so, I don't know, I just think there's a balancing act there between
Agree.
our citizens came and told us this is what they believe, and we had charrettes, and we had meetings, and we had forums, and you could come talk, and then we had talked about it in public hearing, and then all the stuff, and then to then kind of come and immediately turn around and say, well, yeah, you just did it, but we're gonna change it again. I got it when the plan was 20 years old. I don't get it maybe as much when the plan's 2 years old. I don't know if you wanna comment on that, or if that's.
I do. I think
Yeah.
our culture is that we let the landowner come forward with a request if they wanna do so. That staff is not the decider, that we can help
Okay.
guide them through our code and
Okay.
help try to make, you know, judgment calls and say things like, I don't know that they're going to go for that industrial next to single family, that type of information, but really, we try not to make decisions for the council. So if it's a council
Yeah,
decision, we bring it
understand.
forward because the landowner requested it.
I think we're really blessed, sorry, Kat, we're really blessed to have Kat and her staff, cause they sit down with these guys and they talk to them. And they really, you know, they discuss all the issues with them, whether it's political or whatnot. And they do a very good job of getting a plan that's coming before you. And if they don't support it, they'll tell you they don't support it. And I think you gotta look at a land use plan as fluid. It's always fluid, whether it's 2 years or 20 years. I mean, it's always gonna be fluid. And we have to look at the use and whether or not that's gonna like integrate into the uses that are around it. And I think that's the key thing. George, you could probably tell me.
Additionally, these comprehensive plans are required by statute. And the problem is that the people who are giving you all of that input are not necessarily the people that own the property or the people that are gonna be developing the property. And you're saying that you look at a 20-year-old plan and you're changing it all the time, but you could do a plan yesterday, and if interest rates drop, then the use of land changes. Or if interest rates go up, the use of land and what can reasonably be done changes. And the comprehensive plan is a lot of cities, they've got them that are 20 years old and they don't update them because they realize that they're gonna be, it's fixed in a moment in time, and circumstances are gonna change immediately. And you can't get too wed to it. It is guidance, but it's not, hey, nail this down.
But to all your points that we're listening to is that you gotta set a standard.
Yeah.
So whether it changes or not, if you have that standard set, then you can say, I feel very comfortable with doing this.
I also think that, talking about affordable housing, on Withers Road, you have the brick one right next to right there behind Price Chopper, right?
The Kent Senior Housing,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's an MHDC project.
it's a nice
Yeah.
project.
It's fantastic,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
It's all brick.
So is the other one, right down.
Yeah, that's an MHDC project too. And we have one that's not, but those two are like prime examples of first-class affordable housing. That the state came in and provided tax credits, and we built two really great multifamily projects that looked really nice. The one behind Withers, behind Price Chopper's been there for what, 20 years?
Not quite 20, but yeah, getting on 15.
It looks
Yeah.
the same.
So you build with red brick, and all of a sudden you see that it looks really nice. The other one looks nice too. And so, to the extent that I would be interested in trying to figure out how do we encourage another MHDC project if we're gonna have, because they do nice stuff. I mean, they really come in and they build with the idea that it's gonna have to last for an entire.
Well, they have a standard.
They have a standard, and the standard, you think this is tough. The MHDC standard's tough.
Mhm.
They require reserves, they require the developer to have those reserves, to have a plan for upkeep. They really make sure, this is nothing compared to what an MHDC project looks like.
But it's a
In fact, I'm
funding
looking at one right
mechanism,
now, and I've been, literally this afternoon, I was reviewing the budget for one of these projects. And so, it's possible to do these things in a nice way. And so, I don't think that we should give people the impression that we don't wanna build affordable housing. We just want it to be nice. We don't want it to become affordable because it's not nice, and that no one else wants to live there. That's the worst of all possible worlds.
Well, again, I think just give us an opportunity,
Okay.
put something together, and bring it before you guys, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Was there anything in here that you absolutely did not want anyone gives heartburn over, or?
So when you say functional private outdoor space,
Yeah.
are you saying that in the ordinance, it'll,
Say each unit is required to provide functional private outdoor space such as a patio, balcony, terrace, I don't know, deck, or whatever else I might look up and find as a functional private outdoor space. Something that is entered from their unit, is their unit's balcony, is their unit's patio.
And if they both had let's say a deck on the back, duplex unit with a deck on the back, they wouldn't be required to have screening between them, or would they? What is private?
No, I don't think that's what we mean. I think
Okay.
what we mean is just the idea that there
Yeah.
is,
It's-
the
It's not a deck
duplexes that we
anybody
saw
can use,
had
it's a deck you can use.
right, there was a porch, so
Yep.
the porch could be a private,
Okay.
Honestly, Kat, I
Yes.
have concerns with 6, 7, 9, and 11
okay?
on these. 6, 7, and 9, it reflects reflects everything about the T and D
Okay,
that
one
we.
moment, let me just pull it up, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, 6 was the garages attached
are
and detached
numbered
in the
wrong.
back.
Oh, it's
I'm
just
sorry,
skip,
they're
it
numbered
skips
wrong.
6 on,
Yeah,
6
they're
on
numbered
that,
wrong.
yeah.
So garages, so that was the whole, that's not really the T and D, that was that image of the Spring Avenue duplexes with the front, because it's not related to T and D. It's related to when you have buildings that are attached, in order to have parking for both of them, you have just all concrete in the front. So it's not related to T and D, it's related to the fact that you've got units all attached, and so they're going to have that, it's just
No.
gonna be all front yard.
No, I fully, this is the extreme.
This is a typical
Well-
duplex. We drove down Spring Avenue and just took a pic, I mean, this was,
Well, all I'm looking at, go forward to the picture where you're showing with the parking in the rear.
okay. You mean this kind of
Yes.
example? Yeah, I just sketched this out just so in case
I mean,
there was a
well,
question.
All I'm saying to this is that this is a young family moving into here, where are their kids gonna play? Cause
Oh, well,
that,
this is just so that if somebody was like, how does parking in the rear look, how does that, so we just sketched it out.
no,
today.
I fully, I'm just following you with the whole mindset.
Uh-huh.
You
It
know, that
could
was,
be designed, it could be designed for those kids to be able to play in that area.
Yeah, we could,
It could be designed.
I think it's not really any different than the duplexes now, where they're really kind of backing up to each other anyway. There's not a lot of,
Jeff, I don't think it's like the traditional neighborhood that you're, cause I'm with you on that, I mean,
Well,
I don't think it is.
I'm talking about a combination of 6, 7, and 9, all 3, how those come in together.
shoot, I'm sorry, mine are misnumbered, hold on, let me see if I can get.
No, just, cause like I
6 and
say,
7 on the slides are just number 7, they're just combined on
Thank
one.
you. Yeah, I had to change the font, and I think I messed it up, the font was too small.
okay.
It's all right, you've got your rules, Sarah. Garages, primary entrance shall be oriented toward the street. So again, that was that, that idea when we were pulling these out, we were looking at the examples of the things that, were our examples of maybe not great design. And one of the things when staff was looking at it was, where are the front doors? Where are they? And then as you're looking through design criteria, a lot of them say you need to have the front door prominent and visible from the street. So that's not really a T and D thing, I think it's just a not garage prominent thing. I mean, T and D gets very specific with so many
That's
details.
why I'm not saying a literal T and D, but it looks
Okay.
similar to what a T and D layout would be. Front porches, hidden garages, nothing exposed. And that was partly why the villages had the troubles and they went to the duplexes. They could not afford to build the singles anymore because the cost per square foot on their short lots. The whole vision there was they had the big neighborhood playground that ended up being so far away from the others, it became a disadvantage as well.
Well,
And I'm just trying to make sure we're,
I mean, I don't wanna talk about individual developments, but Barth, they have a piece of property in South Dakota. And they were gonna build some townhomes.
Yep.
And it was more towards like what we're designing. And so it's doable.
Yeah, it just seems to me that what we're really talking about with multifamily is that the problem is density. If you're a developer and you're doing single-family houses and you're building a house on half an acre, you can accommodate any of these things, right? You can have the garage in the front, you can have a nice prominent front door, you can have space in the back for the kids. But when you're talking about density and multifamily, you're creating challenges. And I think what we're really saying is, we need the developers to rise to the challenge and not take the easy way out and just throw everything in the front and, slap on the siding. But there are challenges here from a design standpoint, from a construction standpoint, from how it should lay out on the lot and how many units you're gonna have. They've got to rise to that challenge, because it is challenging. I mean, it's a lot harder, I think, to make a nice multifamily than it is to make a nice house. I mean, the blueprint for a nice house is everywhere, right? Everybody can do that. You just have to have the money to build it, right? But for multifamily, the challenge of making nice multifamily is really significant. And we're asking, I think we're ultimately at the end of the day, we're asking developers, and we're asking to set a criteria that we want that challenge to be met.
In number 11, I've got a real problem restricting vinyl entirely.
Why?
Why?
It's trash.
Because when we look at all of our peer cities, which I did research into know, the only city that does not allow vinyl in multifamily is Leawood. In the entire metropolitan area, only Leawood restricts. I looked at Leawood, Olathe, Lenexa, Overland Park, Miriam, Mission, Lee Summit, Independence, Blue Springs, and I looked at all of our surrounding communities here as well. I looked at them for multifamily, I looked at them for single family, and I also looked at their design standards. I saw we're looking at the whole design standards. Leawood restricts it 100%. 2 other communities have restrictions of no vinyl on the front, like what we've had come through a couple of times. Other than that, they're all using vinyl to some extent. They've put percentage limits. They've also said you cannot do just what I call the straight raw vinyl, like what we see across from the Mabee Center. There's actually vinyl made where there's metal rods that go in the upper part of the vinyl. That way it cannot sag, it cannot bow. You can actually get other vinyls that actually tuck in together, almost like, I call them clickets, where they snap together. There's multiple ways it can be done. And just for all of our peer cities, except for one that allows vinyl some extent or some way or another, I think we need to be a little more open, not saying 100% forbidden, but we limit it. 20%, whatever it would be. I'm not trying to declare a percentage now. I just want us to be a little more eyes wide open and look at different options, different thoughts.
The only reason they're doing it is because it's cheaper, right? No one does it because they think vinyl is the highest quality or a good quality. They're doing it because it's cheaper, right?
No, not true at all.
So you think that the developers could build with brick, but they choose vinyl because they like the look? Well, do you?
It's not what I said at all.
Well, do you think that, I mean.
No, because to go what you're talking right now, you're trying to put it in for the whole thing vinyl, and I've never said vinyl.
I don't even know what you just said there.
It doesn't seem like a stretch to, we can all agree that vinyl is the least expensive building material that's typically used on the exterior of a house. And maybe, I don't think I'm wrong with that, but isn't that true? And that's okay, I mean, there's always gonna be a scale of what's more expensive to least expensive. And I think we should at least start with the belief that vinyl's the least expensive building material for exterior of houses. Is that controversial? Are we disagreeing on that?
I can only assume.
That seems right to me.
Metal, which we don't allow.
Okay, yeah. And no more buildings for multifamily?
Correct.
I just think we ought to just try to have first class building in this community. I think that's what the constituents want. I think that's what people want. I think builders will always want to build with this, make the most profit they can, and our job is to set some minimum standards. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that on a multifamily project that we're gonna ask you to build something a little bit better than vinyl. It just seems reasonable.
So we recently had a downtown task force meeting, and at that meeting, we were having a very similar discussion about, is this too much? You know, are we expecting too much? And someone at the meeting, Jeff Dima, said, well, we'll know in a couple of years, because if no one brings anything forward, you'll know that you've done too much. And so I think there is the ability to make these changes and aim for something, and if it feels like we're hearing from developers and we're, not getting what we expected from it, we can.
I think also one thing we said about the downtown task force, and something that I think that we ought to consider as we move forward with building and design criteria that may be first class, and that is, sometimes maybe we need to help developers a little. That with with John Davis. He's come forward with something that I don't think was, great. And we went back to him and said, hey, listen, if the city were to partner with you and figure out something, how maybe we could add value, maybe with a tax incentive or something like that, would you be willing to come back with something that's a better product? And his answer was absolutely. And so I think this can be an opportunity for us to work with developers and work with builders and work together to make sure that what we're building is something that will last the test of time. And, if a builder comes forward and says, hey, look, I'm having problems making this work, we have grading problems, we have earthwork problems, or this is a problem, rather than just say, well, let's just stick vinyl up and make it work, let's say, well, what can we do to help you? What can we do to make this a project that we can all be proud of, that's good for our citizens and makes it a workable deal that doesn't make the cost skyrocket? So I think that we have a really good reputation with developers. I think we have a really good reputation with commercial brokers and economic development folks. And I see no reason why we can't have a great relationship with builders too. And see this not as an opportunity to just put these stringent requirements on that we'll never deviate from, and we're trying to impede development, but rather say, look, we have some minimum standards in Liberty. We want first-class development. Work with us to make that happen. And I think that's all we're doing here.
I've got just a little note on number 7, which I know you're 6 and 7 are.
No, I have it now.
When it says it's, let's see, the primary entrance to a building shall be oriented towards the street. I'm thinking about the Fulkerson development where when you're on, Liberty Drive, and what we see is the back.
Right.
Does that mean oriented toward Liberty Drive, or
No.
oriented toward
Right, their neighborhood, their street,
their
their
little
neighborhood street. So-
Because the back on the, I'm sorry, to me, those look like barracks.
But we don't
Those are-
allow driveways on Liberty Drive, so we wouldn't want,
That's true.
them to be entering on Liberty Drive. So-
And no, I do understand that, but I just mean as going forward with this.
Yeah, there's some limitations there.
Okay, yeah.
You're just saying that it would be nice to have something in place that would actually require some type of
Well,
better street scene.
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
number 3, right?
Yeah.
Number 3 is the landscaping. If you back up
Right.
to
Oh, right.
it, you have to landscape. Part of
That's
yeah.
true, yeah. Okay, thank
it's
you.
also part of it is just it's minimally planted and it's hasn't grown in yet. So hopefully we'll
Yeah.
get some screening as time.
That's
Was
true.
this new, is that new language that's not currently in?
Currently, on where you back up, so right now, there is code that talks about, fronting, you front on, but all this is not within the PD, which is why we'd wanna incorporate it all into the PD. It's in
Okay.
other sections of the code. And it wants you to front on your neighborhood street, and if you back up to an arterial or a collector, you're going to, have to have that. Right now it says 100-foot buffer, but lots of people have gotten a variance for a 50-foot buffer. And so that's bermed and landscaped, so that's sort of what helps that situation. But that's not great when you've got a small property like the Fulkerson, where you really can't have that 100-foot, just asking too much of the development.
Is mulch currently required?
No,
Okay.
mulch is not currently required.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing that kind of stuck out to me. If somebody wants to do a little hardscape with some pea gravel or something, instead of mulch, I mean,
I
Well,
think
this
the
says ground
code,
cover, is that,
ground cover.
what is ground cover?
Depends
I
on-
think the code intent of this one that we pulled it from was that you can't have bare dirt. We don't want bare dirt.
Yeah.
So,
So if you wanted to put river rock instead of mulch, then it'd be okay.
yes,
Okay.
but we can clarify that.
I wanna say thank you for coming up with this for us to talk about,
Great.
because it's, this is a big deal, and it's, it's good that we're having this discussion. I would also encourage anybody that has any thoughts between now and this brought forward to call Kat, call Kurt, because
Email's
I
great.
mean,
Yeah.
this is a big deal, and I think that, you know, making sure that we have something that we all really like is important, and, I know that, you know, Kevin and I talked beforehand, and we were kind of unsure on the 30%, so this was good. So we probably haven't fully digested what we're thinking about. I'll go back and think about, you know, the different styles and ephes and all of that, and I don't know, maybe I mean, when you bring it back, you know, maybe we could bring it back for a discussion item before it's brought back as an ordinance.
Yeah, I think that.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Not a study session, but just
Yeah, but I think we have to put it like in a form so that you can see.
oh, no, I agree with that,
Yeah,
but
okay.
don't ask us
Not
to
as
vote on it,
ordinance.
but just say,
Right,
hey,
right.
listen, this is gonna be like a,
Yeah.
you know, a discussion item. Give us a proposal, for an ordinance, and then we can kind of tweak it at that point. And if people, you know,
Oh, maybe to your point.
and if,
Mayor,
look, if there's a developer out there that has concerns, give me a call. I'd be glad to talk to them. I mean, I think that we have great relationships with developers, and I'd love to talk to someone and tell them what we're trying to achieve here, and, you know, you can learn a lot from just talking to people, so.
And to your point relative to 30%, I agree, it's something I'd have to visualize. I mean, it could be helpful to say, here's the same building, here it is, here's his, and it doesn't have to be fancy, but, you know, this part's black, and that would represent stone or stucco, and this is 20%, this is 30, this is 40, or whatever the appropriate, and then we can just kind of see what that looks like visually, maybe
We can
that
do
would be helpful.
Sure.
And we can stick with 30 for now, and then if we collectively think we need a different number, we can change it then, but the next time.
Kat, I do have one question on the landscaping when you got your note done.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
In the Fulkerson, in the cottages, you know, they did all their bushes and everything, their greenery to get it together. You know, he did exactly what he had to do and nothing more. When you're going around the Fulkerson Drive in the back, the westernmost building before the natural vegetation begins has absolutely no screening. And when people drive around that circle, their headlights are straight into that duplex. Cause there was about 30 or 40 feet that has absolutely no bushes or anything along that buffer that they built. Is there anything that can go into, yes, you've got your requirements, but it needs to extend to the end of your project?
I think,
I mean, literally, it's like 30 feet short. It's like, did this not get planted? Nope, that was exactly what had to be done.
They met the minimum number and then.
Yes.
I think the reality is, you know, we have our minimums, and there's always gonna be developers that are building to the minimum. There's not really much, you know, there could have been dialogue if staff would have thought, this light's gonna shine in and hit these people on the window. You know, we could have probably said, hey, move some from elsewhere and put them here. I think it was brought to our attention after it was planted, and staff goes out and counts every bush. They go out and mark it all off. We send people out to count it, make sure it's alive, and count all of it. And so they had done what they were required to do, so it was, you know, it's a challenge to, especially with a developer who was already unhappy because they wanted to make a change that we didn't allow them to make. So the extra above and beyond probably isn't,
Yeah, that phantom
going to
gate looks
occur.
really good.
the Phantom Gate is lovely,
Yeah.
yes.
But no, I was just
Still
curious,
working on it.
could we add a line into there that, you know, your minimum shrubs, but you have to go to the end of your project? Can we say that? Or the minimum is the minimum and no give?
Or equal spacing, would that work too, like from,
I don't know, it's just
Yeah,
really weird when you
your
see
point's-
this gap.
You mean like covering the frontage of some kind? We'll see what we can do.
yeah, that's a good point.
I think we can come up with a great ordinance that ends up really having minimum standards for first-class development that can, we can work with developers to make sure that they provide a high-quality product that citizens really like, and we can also deal with affordable housing. I mean, you know, we can ask MHTC to come in and do scattered site housing in the downtown area. There's a, where you can have home ownership after a period of time. You know, that would be a great thing for us to do. So I think, you know, I don't think that we're really being, I think that we can really come up with something that everybody can really be proud of at the end of this. So, thank you, Kat, for
Yep,
all
you
your
bet.
work on this. It was
Yeah.
Thank you
fantastic.
for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're adjourned.